Hey everybody, it's Dave Hartman from the 3 Gun Show, and I'm with Kevin Travis, the match director of SoCo 3 Gun and the Colorado 3 Gun Championship. And we are here to talk about a topic that Kevin has a lot of expertise in, and sometimes we have to deal with on the range. Kevin, we're here to talk about medical emergencies and how to deal with them on the range.
Right. So I'm a paramedic in my day-to-day life, a paramedic firefighter. And so I was very concerned about the fact we didn't have a little small kit on every single one of our stages, just in the off chance that something bad did happen. We try as hard as we can to make sure that we're as safe as we can possibly be, but it's better to be proactive than reactionary in my opinion. So we made sure that we have a little teeny tiny small kit that's available. We came up with a little range card here. And any of the match directors out there that would like a copy of this, I'm more than happy to share it with you. On the front side, it's got this, it's an emergency card with basically a little step-by-step. My expectations is that you send one person to grab this card and they are reading through, making sure that all of these things happen step by step. We have a minimum 8 to 10 people per squad. You don't need 10 people throwing a tourniquet on. You don't need 10 people bandaging something. So one person will absolutely be available to go ahead and read this. Dave, do you mind reading it for me?
Yeah, emergency card, stop bleeding, see back for help.
So on the back here, we actually have a little bit of wound care instructions, okay?
Next is no pulse, chest compressions, 100 beats per minute.
So chest compressions, if you've taken a CPR class, you know what I'm talking about. But basically, you just need to put your arms straight as you can. You're going to put the heel of your palm right in between their nipples, right on the sternum, and you're going to compress about 2.5 inches into their chest, okay? Make sure you get full recoil, all right?
Have someone else call 911, and then it has the name of our range and the address of our range.
Now that one is really important that you assign one specific person to call 911. When they call 911, don't have them say, yeah, I'm over at the Pikes Peak Gun Club and somebody was just shot, because they have no idea what that means. They don't know if there's somebody over there that's actively shooting a bunch of people. They don't know if it was an accidental discharge. They don't know what happened, okay? So that person that calls 911, they need to be very descriptive on exactly what happened. Hey, there was a guy shooting at a shooting event and he accidentally shot himself. The firearm has been secured and is safe, and first responders are safe to come in. Okay, that's very important. Otherwise, that can delay medical care.
The other thing to mention is where you're at, and it's important to know where you're at because a lot of the ranges that we shoot on are not easily accessible, and maybe the address isn't posted. So
that's a good point.
If you are going to a range, going to a shooting event, and you go to one regularly, know the address of that place. And if you're at a new place, make sure you know where you are as well.
And on top of that, it'd be a very, very smart idea to have somebody out at the front gate that can guide the ambulance crew or the fire crew on scene, the law enforcement crew, to let them know exactly where you're going. I've been to some ranges where all the berms are right there at the entrance. I've been to other ranges where it literally is miles from the entrance to the club to be able to get to the specific berm that you're on. So that'd be a great idea, especially somebody that's very knowledgeable of that area.
Yes. Next is use air horn and do not stop.
So this is specific for my club. I want to make sure that my shooters, because I am trained and I have a lot more equipment with me than just a small pack, are able to alert me. And I don't know that a cell phone's going to necessarily work. So by holding down this air horn, or do big long blasts with this thing, hopefully I'll be able to hear it over the gunfire, and I'm going to come running as soon as I can.
Call match director, and then there's Kevin's cell phone number.
So you obviously need to alert the match director to know what's going on so it can stop all shooting and make sure that the emergency is taken care of.
Next is call gun club, and there's the gun club's phone number.
And they obviously need to know as well. They're going to be pretty concerned if they see all of a sudden ambulances rushing down the range and they have no idea why. So if there's time and you're that far down the list, that's why it's the last thing to do, but still, they should be alerted. So now we're going to go ahead and go over the specifics on how to treat a gunshot wound as well as a tourniquet. These kits right here are specific to gunshot wounds. This is considered a layperson's thing. I'm not teaching advanced packing techniques. I'm not teaching you how to clamp off arteries or any craziness that you may have learned from other classes. This is specific to a layperson that can take care of things before EMS gets there in the matter of seconds to minutes beforehand, okay?
All right, so the first category is gunshot wound, and in parentheses it says, if limb and extreme bleeding, skip to tourniquet.
So that's really important right there, okay? These are going to talk about packing a wound and taking care of the wound with gauzes and things like that. But if it's somebody that, you know, was shot in an arm and a leg, something like that, and they're just pouring blood out, you're not going to stop it with a piece of gauze, okay? So we're going to go ahead and just skip to the tourniquet instructions. But go ahead with the gunshot wound.
All right, under gunshot wound, number 1, exposed wound. You may need to use included shears to cut clothing near wound.
So if you leave cloth on the wound or around the wound, it's going to prevent very good clotting and your access to the wound. And then on top of that, you need to expose to see where the exit could possibly be. It is possible that a round can come in the skin, hit a bone and shatter and have several different exit wounds. So it's really important that we expose the patient to be able to see if they have any extra wounds besides that one.
If minor, or number 2, if minor or no bleeding, secure gauze on top of wound and elevate wound above heart.
Okay, so inside of our little pack here, I've got a little trauma pack that we bought. And every single one of the little range bags is going to have one of these. Inside, we have various dressings. So, right here we have some 4x4 dressings, some gauzes, some trauma pads, and these will just get wrapped over the wound. And like it said, you're just going to secure it on top of the wound and elevate. So by elevating it, we're basically fighting gravity a little bit. There's going to be less pressure to be able to assist in that bleeding process, okay?
If bleeding continues, apply quick clot sponge to the outside of the wound with pressure.
So this right here is a quick clot sponge. So it has directions on the back of it for use. Quick clot is basically, it's an agent that promotes coagulation, which means it promotes clotting of the blood, okay? It's not recommended for use for small little things, little grazes or something like that. If we have a serious gunshot wound, this is a really good tool to help promote that clotting because they're gonna probably be bleeding a whole lot.
Number 5, if bleeding continues, apply tourniquet if bullet wound is on a limb.
Okay, and actually let me go back really quick on the quick clot sponge. It has to be with pressure. Okay, pressure is our friend. So on top of just having the quick clot sponge and having our trauma dressings, we also have this right here. This is, they call it roller gauze. Basically, there's different kinds. There's acrylics and stuff like that. And you're gonna wrap it around and wrap it really tight. And then you're gonna apply direct manual pressure with your hand over the top of the wound, okay? Now onto the tourniquet. Say it again.
Now on to number 5, if bleeding continues, apply tourniquet if bullet wound is on a limb.
That's only going to apply if it's on a limb. You can't do it for the chest. You can't wrap a tourniquet around anybody's neck or their head. Okay.
Number 6, note, if there's an entrance, there's likely an exit or multiples. Treat all wounds.
Okay, we already covered that. So we'll go ahead and go over to the tourniquet. So inside the package, not inside the trauma pack, that's going to be separate. That's only your bandaging equipment. Inside the range bag, we also are going to have a catch tourniquet. Okay.
Tourniquet says 1, only for bleeding that cannot be controlled by other means and that is on a limb.
Okay, so when you apply a tourniquet, it's going to cut off their blood flow. If you cut off blood flow to any tissues, it's going to do a few things. It's going to promote breakdown of those cells because they're not receiving enough nutrients and oxygen and stuff like that. And it's going to start to actually kill the tissue and promote what's called acidosis, which is a very bad thing. Okay.
Number 2, wrap tourniquet above wound.
Okay, so when we say above wound, we mean closest to the body. Okay, so let's say that they have a wound here. We need to wrap it above that wound. Okay, you don't want to get as high as you possibly can because all the tissue from here down to that wound that's just on my forearm, all that tissue is not going to receive blood flow anymore. So if we're able to put it proximal, close to the wound, but above it or closer to the body than farther, that's going to be the best place to put it.
Number 3, do not place on joint.
So if you place on a joint, it's very bad, obviously, for the joint. It's bad for if they have to have a future amputation. And then also because there are so many bony prominences and your vessels they actually can travel through different parts of the joint, you may not be able to actually pinch off those vessels. So being up on a long bone or down here in long bones or with the thighs or the lower legs or whatever, you're able to capture as many of those arteries as possible and not have to apply nearly as much pressure to be able to close those off.
Number 4, pull loose end of tourniquet tight.
Okay, so when you wrap this around, I'm going to demonstrate this with Dave's arm here. You're going to wrap it around. Let's say that his bullet wound's here, so we're just going to go right up above it. You're going to pull it nice and tight. After you pull it tight, there's hook and loop style fasteners on here, like Velcro. You just wrap it around, and it should stick. What's the next step?
Number 5, twist stick until bleeding stops.
Okay.
Only until bleeding stops.
So this is called a windlass right here. This stick, it's actually connected to the fabric, and as you twist it, it's going to continue to tighten. You only need to tighten to the point where that bleeding stops. If you continue to tighten more and more and more, it's just going to cause additional damage. So just until until it stops.
Secure stick using Velcro/elastic loop.
So inside here, the windlass has a little place to capture it. Okay, so after you twist it, just slide it inside here. It'll get stuck there, and then you take the Velcro and just wrap it over top.
Number 7, note the time applied and advise the ambulance crew.
So if you've been sitting here for 5 minutes with this or 30 minutes with this on, it may change the way that the hospital is going to treat that wound, okay? It also may change their suspicion of damaged tissues and stuff like that. So it's really important that you do pass on to the ambulance crew about what time. It doesn't have to be exact, but about what time that this happened, okay? Again, this is not a big medical course. If you guys would like additional training, there are definitely different areas to be able to do it. There are civilian medical programs, there are TCCC programs, trauma, combat, casualty care, stuff like that. Pre-hospital trauma life support, all kinds of stuff. If you guys want to get involved in those, you're more than welcome to, but this is just the very tip of the iceberg to basically delay that bleeding as best as possible before the ambulance gets there, okay? If you guys have any more questions, please don't hesitate to call, ask. My email is SoCo, the number 3 gun, SoCo 3 gun, @gmail.com, and I'm happy to help.
Right on. Kevin, thank you for running through this stuff with us, and let's hope we never need to use it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.